How do you make a woman feel desire for you even when she doesn't seem interested at all? Hi, I'm Emily Carter, and welcome to the Female Game. Today we're going to explore something that most men never truly understand. You know that feeling? You're talking to a woman who seems amazing, and yet somehow her interest just isn't there. You try being kind, you try giving attention, you try doing all the right things. And the more effort you show, the more distance seems to grow. It feels confusing, frustrating, maybe even defeating. But here's the truth. Most men never hear, "You're probably not doing anything wrong. You're just doing the right things in the wrong sequence." Attraction doesn't follow logic. It doesn't respond to reasoning or effort the way you think. It follows deeper emotional patterns. Patterns the brain has been wired to notice for millions of years. Before we go any further, I want you to pause and hear this clearly. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this as you were growing up. School didn't explain it. Society didn't explain it. And yet the truth is simple. Female attraction is emotional, not logical. While you were trying to prove your worth through words, reasoning, or actions, her brain was scanning for completely different signals. Signals you probably didn't even realize existed. Understanding these signals isn't about manipulation, it's about alignment with how attraction naturally works. Once you understand them, you stop chasing. You stop forcing. You become the kind of man women are naturally drawn to without even trying. I know this might feel personal. Maybe you felt that sting of being friend-zoned, ignored, or dismissed despite your best efforts. And that's exactly why this matters. I've been talking to countless men over the years who've shared their stories of heartbreak, confusion, and longing. One man told me about a woman he'd admired for months. He was always nice, always available, always agreeing, and yet she never looked at him the way he hoped. When he understood these psychological triggers, and which I'm going to share today, he realized it wasn't about being a better person. It was about being the right person in the right way at the right time. That shift transformed not just his romantic life, but his confidence, self-respect, and understanding of human connection. Let's start with the first psychological trigger: masculine presence. Now, this isn't about muscles, looks, or flashy confidence. It's about energy, posture, and how you carry yourself. When you enter a room, do you take up space? Or do you shrink into the background? Women notice this within seconds. A man who moves calmly, who doesn't rush, who isn't scanning faces communicates value through presence alone. That grounded energy, rare as it is, instantly signals attraction. Think about a social setting. Instead of scanning the room nervously, you relax your shoulders, slow your breathing, and move with intention. You observe without anxiety. That subtle shift sends a message far stronger than any compliment or gesture could. She senses something different, not because you tried harder, but because you became centered in yourself. Here's an actionable exercise. The next time you're out socially, practice entering a room and not seeking anyone's attention immediately. Stand tall, breathe, and simply notice. Observe people, conversations, and the environment without needing approval. This trains your energy to radiate calm, grounded confidence, the kind of presence that naturally draws interest. The second trigger is emotional challenge. Many men think they need to agree with everything a woman says, fearing conflict or tension. But tension isn't the enemy. In fact, it's attraction fuel. Light disagreement, playful teasing, and intellectual contrast create polarity. And polarity generates magnetism. For example, if she says she loves waking up early instead of automatically agreeing, you might smile and say, "Really? I've mastered the snooze button. Tell me your secret." That's playful, not rude. That's confidence, not arrogance. That's interaction, not people pleasing. Consider this real life example. I once worked with a client named David. He was polite, agreeable, and attentive. But women rarely seemed drawn to him romantically. Once he began introducing light challenges, teasing, differing opinions expressed with respect, he noticed something remarkable. Women engaged more, laughed more, and even reached out to continue conversations. The spark wasn't in his words alone. It was in the contrast, the energy and the courage to show himself fully. Attraction thrives on contrast, not constant agreement. Now, I want to pause here and address you directly. If this resonates, hit the like button. You're not just supporting this video. You're sending a signal that you're ready to learn what you were never taught and take control of the way attraction naturally flows. The third trigger is selective attention. Many men make the mistake of giving too much attention too soon. Instant replies, canceled plans, being always available. These behaviors, though well-intentioned, are often read as low value. Research in behavioral psychology shows that scarcity and purpose are powerful attractors. When you have a full, interesting life, hobbies, goals, friendships, and direction, your time becomes valuable. You stop orbiting her world and instead live in your own. That naturally sparks curiosity. Women notice men who are present in their own lives, not just in theirs. An actionable step. Identify 1 or 2 activities that make your life rich and fulfilling outside dating. Whether it's learning a new skill, pursuing a passion project, or spending time with friends, commit fully. When you do, your confidence grows, your energy becomes magnetic, and attraction follows naturally. The fourth trigger is intentional listening. Women aren't looking for generic compliments. They want to feel seen and understood. When you remember small details, she casually mentions her favorite flower, a story about her childhood, a recent challenge, and bring them up later. You create emotional resonance. This is the type of connection that builds intrigue and trust, often more than charm or physical presence alone. For instance, if she mentions loving orchids, you might send a photo of one you saw and say, "This reminded me of you." That subtle act communicates attention, care, and presence, and it's deeply attractive. We've now covered presence, emotional challenge, selective attention, and intentional listening. 4 out of 7 psychological triggers. Each one works on both conscious and subconscious levels, shaping how she experiences you emotionally and mentally. The key is integration. These aren't isolated tricks, but parts of a broader strategy that aligns with how female attraction naturally operates. Before I move to the next triggers, let me ask you this. Can you think of moments in your life where you tried to impress, but the more you tried, the less interested she seemed? That feeling, frustration mixed with confusion, and is exactly why understanding these triggers is transformational. The moment you shift from trying harder to being intentional, everything changes. You stop chasing and start attracting naturally. The 5th trigger is calibrated vulnerability. Many men believe they must appear flawless, invulnerable, and untouchable. But the truth is, women are drawn to humanity combined with stability. Sharing a personal story, a past struggle, or a genuine fear without self-pity makes you relatable. It signals honesty and strength simultaneously. Think of it this way. Vulnerability isn't weakness. Vulnerability is authenticity with confidence. Strength isn't hiding flaws, it's being comfortable with them. An exercise to practice this. Reflect on one challenge you've overcome that shaped who you are. Share it naturally in conversation when appropriate, emphasizing growth and learning. Notice how it invites openness, trust, and emotional resonance. The sixth trigger is gradual touch. Science shows that light, respectful touch releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This is why brief touches, a gentle brush on the arm, a playful nudge, a hand lightly placed on the shoulder, create positive associations. They're not forced, rushed, or intrusive. Done correctly, they make her brain associate your presence with comfort, warmth, and safety. This is attraction rooted in both emotion and biology. We're now approaching the most powerful trigger, one that can truly transform attraction if understood and applied correctly. But before revealing it, consider this. All the triggers I've shared so far, presence, challenge, selective attention, listening, vulnerability, and touch, are building blocks. They work best together, creating layers of intrigue, connection, and desire. Each one by itself helps, but combined, they make you unforgettable. And finally, the seventh trigger, controlled unpredictability. This is where psychology meets intrigue. The human brain thrives on dopamine, the reward hormone released by novelty and uncertainty. Slight unpredictability keeps her thinking about you even when you're not around. It doesn't mean being inconsistent or unstable. It means balance. Sometimes warm, sometimes challenging, sometimes initiating, sometimes waiting. The mystery keeps the mind engaged. When women can't predict exactly how you'll act, their brain starts valuing you more, not less. Now that we've covered the 7 triggers at a high level, let's dig deeper into how each one works in real life and how you can apply them consistently to create authentic attraction. Starting again with masculine presence, it's important to understand that this isn't just a surface level behavior. It's about your inner state. Women subconsciously scan for energy that signals security, stability, and self-assurance. Think about evolutionary psychology. Historically, women had to quickly assess whether a potential partner could provide protection, confidence, and reliability. This doesn't mean brute strength. It means composure and groundedness. Here's a practical exercise. Practice room scanning without anxiety. Walk into a cafe, a social event, or even a small gathering. Instead of immediately searching for approval or recognition, observe your surroundings. Note 3 things without reacting. The lighting, a sound in the background, or a movement you hadn't noticed before. Keep your breathing steady, your posture open but relaxed, and notice how people respond to you. You may find yourself naturally standing out without saying a word. That's the subtle power of presence. Next, emotional challenge. Let's break this down psychologically. Women are wired to respond to polarity, the natural push and pull between confidence and intrigue. When a man simply agrees all the time, he appears safe but also predictable. Predictability is comforting, but it doesn't spark desire. Light tension expressed respectfully creates engagement and intrigue. For example, imagine a woman says she loves spicy food. Instead of nodding automatically, you could say with a grin, "I'm not sure you're ready for my level of heat." Playful, teasing, and confident, it invites interaction. Or consider another scenario. She loves romantic movies. Instead of agreeing, you might respond, "Romance is fine, but only if there's a plot twist I can't predict." That spark, that contrast is magnetic because it signals confidence, individuality, and emotional depth. Now, selective attention. Many men don't realize that constant availability actually diminishes perceived value. Psychology research on scarcity shows that humans place higher value on things that are rare or limited. When you have a full, rich life, pursuing hobbies, career goals, friendships, or personal projects, you naturally cultivate scarcity in the best way. You're not playing games, you're simply living a life that matters. This makes interactions with you more meaningful because they're a choice, not a default. Here's an actionable approach. Designate one evening per week for a personal project, a hobby, or even a me day. Let that time be sacred. When you engage with women after you've invested in yourself, you carry energy, confidence, and authenticity. A subtle magnetism that words alone can't create. Moving on to intentional listening. This is where many men miss the mark. Listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about processing meaning and remembering details. Neuroscience shows that our brains respond strongly to cues that indicate someone remembers and values our experiences. When you recall a small anecdote she shared, a funny story, a favorite food, a childhood memory, and bring it up naturally later, you instantly signal attentiveness and empathy. Here's an example. She casually mentioned she loves running in the mornings. A few days later, you send a quick message. Saw a sunrise run today and thought of you. Bet you were crushing it. That simple act shows presence and care. Over time, this builds trust, emotional connection, and a sense of being truly seen, which is far more impactful than generic compliments. The fifth trigger, calibrated vulnerability, is transformative because it combines emotional intimacy with confidence. Women are drawn to men who are human but grounded, who can share imperfections without overcompensating. Vulnerability releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and signals honesty and depth. Try this exercise. Next time you're in a meaningful conversation, share a challenge you overcame recently. Not to seek sympathy, but to illustrate growth. For example, I used to struggle with public speaking, but I pushed myself to present at a workshop last month. It was nerve-wracking, but I felt proud afterward. Notice how expressing real experiences with calm confidence fosters relatability and attraction simultaneously. Sixth, gradual physical touch. This is about subtlety and timing. Physical touch releases oxytocin, strengthens bonding, and makes women feel safe and comfortable with your presence. The key is respecting boundaries and observing her responses carefully. Imagine this scenario. You're laughing at a joke she told, and you lightly brush her arm in a natural, playful manner. Later, you guide her through a doorway with a brief hand on her back. These small gestures communicate warmth, attention, and presence, which her brain associates with comfort and safety. Over time, consistent respectful touch strengthens emotional and physical attraction. And now, the seventh trigger, controlled unpredictability. This one is incredibly powerful because it taps directly into the brain's dopamine system. Humans love novelty. When you're slightly unpredictable, alternating warmth and challenge, initiating sometimes, letting her take the lead other times, you create intrigue and fascination. Think of it like storytelling in real life. When you share experiences mixed in small surprises, maybe one day you send a funny voice note. Another day you casually share an interesting article related to her interests. You're not inconsistent. You're engaging in a way that keeps her brain stimulated and curious. The result, she thinks about you even when you're not around. That's the psychological magic of controlled unpredictability. Let me give you a real-life example. A client I worked with, James, had been struggling with a woman he liked for months. He was predictable, always agreeing, always available. Once he started applying these triggers, presence, challenge, selective attention, listening, vulnerability, touch, and unpredictability, he noticed a profound shift. She began initiating conversations, laughing at his jokes, and even suggesting plans. The change wasn't dramatic or manipulative. It was natural, intentional, and aligned with how attraction works. At this point, you might be wondering, Emily, how do I combine all of these without feeling like I'm playing a role? That's an excellent question, and the answer lies in integration, authenticity, and practice. These triggers aren't scripts to memorize, they're principles to internalize. A practical exercise for integration. Pick one social interaction each day and consciously apply 2 triggers. For example, practice presence by observing the environment calmly. Pair it with intentional listening by remembering one small detail she mentioned. Over time, add additional triggers until they become second nature, not forced behaviors. The goal is to embody these principles so fully that they radiate naturally, making attraction effortless and authentic. Now let's explore how to layer these 7 psychological triggers seamlessly in real-life situations. This is where theory becomes practical and attraction becomes natural. Imagine you're at a casual gathering, a party, a cafe, or even a networking event. You notice a woman you'd like to connect with. Instead of rushing to impress, pause, ground yourself, breathe, relax your shoulders, and enter with presence. That's the first trigger at work. You don't need to announce your value. Your energy does it for you. As you start talking, sprinkle in light emotional challenges. Maybe she mentions a favorite hobby or opinion. Instead of instantly agreeing, respond thoughtfully, teasing playfully, or offering a gentle counterpoint. This creates polarity and intrigue. Notice how a confident, measured challenge immediately makes conversations more engaging. At the same time, practice selective attention. You're present in the moment, but not desperate for her approval. Maintain a life outside this interaction. Check in with friends. Pursue your interests. Laugh genuinely at things unrelated to her. This balance signals that your world is full and valuable. Intentional listening is your secret weapon. Pay attention to small details she shares. Her favorite cafe, an upcoming trip, a hobby she loves. Later reference these naturally. You mentioned you love that new coffee place. I walked by it today and thought of you. That demonstrates presence, care, and emotional attunement. Next, incorporate calibrated vulnerability. Share something personal but framed confidently. A challenge you overcame, a lesson learned, or a moment of growth. Vulnerability with stability creates trust and intimacy. She sees you as relatable, authentic, and grounded. Someone she can connect with beyond surface-level interactions. Gradual physical touch comes next. Executed subtly and respectfully. Perhaps a brief hand on the shoulder while guiding her through a doorway, or a light brush of the arm during laughter. These small touches release oxytocin and create an emotional and physical bond. The key is calibration. Watch her reactions, proceed naturally, and ensure comfort at every step. Finally, weave in controlled unpredictability. Maintain a balance of warmth and challenge, initiation and patience, consistency and surprise. Maybe sometimes you send a thoughtful message after a conversation. Sometimes you wait, letting her take initiative. Perhaps you share a spontaneous idea for an activity or insight that surprises her. This unpredictability keeps dopamine flowing, sustaining attraction and fascination. Here's a real-life story illustrating all of this in action. A client named Marcus had been frustrated with dating. Women often found him nice but unremarkable. Once he integrated all 7 triggers, the difference was astonishing. He entered rooms with calm, grounded energy, engaged in playful debates, balanced attention with purpose. remembered subtle details, shared personal stories, added light touch when appropriate, and maintained a sense of mystery. Within weeks, women who had previously ignored him were initiating conversations, laughing freely, and showing genuine interest. Marcus didn't manipulate. He aligned with the psychological principles of attraction. Now, let's talk about sustaining desire over time. Many men understand initial attraction, but few maintain it. The same triggers can be layered long-term. Presence. Continue cultivating your energy, confidence, and centeredness. Avoid complacency. Emotional challenge. Keep your interactions dynamic. Introduce new ideas, playful banter, and healthy debates. Selective attention. Stay engaged with your own life, ensuring that your availability remains balanced. Intentional listening. Continuously show that you value her perspective, remembering new details as she shares them. Calibrated vulnerability. Deepen intimacy by sharing evolving personal insights, challenges, and reflections. Gradual physical touch, respectful, appropriate physical connection remains a cornerstone for emotional bonding. Controlled unpredictability. Introduce novel experiences, surprises, or subtle shifts in interaction patterns to keep dopamine and intrigue high. A practical exercise for maintaining attraction. Every week, pick one trigger and consciously enhance it in your interactions. For example, this week, focus on intentional listening, noticing and recalling small details. Next week, practice controlled unpredictability, like adding an unexpected but meaningful gesture. Layer them over time for a natural, compelling presence that sustains desire. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. Think of a woman you're interested in or someone you'd like to connect with on a deeper level. Imagine yourself applying these principles, entering the room grounded, engaging with confidence, listening intently, sharing vulnerability, using subtle touch, balancing attention, and maintaining a hint of mystery. How different does that feel compared to how you normally approach attraction? That feeling of alignment, of ease, of being in tune with natural psychology is exactly what draws authentic desire. Here's an important reminder. These triggers are not manipulations. They're tools to enhance your natural self, align your behavior with how human attraction works, and create meaningful emotional connections. Respect, integrity, and authenticity are essential. Use them to cultivate relationships that are mutually rewarding, deep, and fulfilling. Finally, let's talk about action. If you found these insights helpful, like this video to help more men learn what they were never taught. Comment below with your experiences. Which triggers resonate most with you, or which have you already seen in action? Share this video with someone who could benefit from understanding attraction on a deeper psychological level. And don't forget to subscribe to The Female Game for more videos where we decode female psychology, relationship dynamics, and actionable strategies that actually work. Remember, desire is not about force, perfection, or trickery. It's about understanding the emotional subconscious patterns that drive attraction. Embodying these principles authentically, and creating experiences that naturally draw her in. You now have the knowledge, tools, and actionable exercises to make women feel desire, even when interest seems absent. Use these principles with care, with authenticity, and with confidence. When applied correctly, they transform not just your romantic life, but your understanding of human connection, intimacy, and personal magnetism. This is the power of the female game, and now it's in your hands. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Emily Carter, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue unlocking the secrets of female psychology and attraction so you can become The man women genuinely want without games, without confusion, and without frustration.